Welcome to Synthaholics. This is your host, David Duncan, and with me is...
Brian! Hello, David. How are you doing, man?
We're doing well. How's yours doing?
That's how you have to talk the rest of the time. This whole entire conversation is going to be... You have to switch between the two as well.
Why does it cries me? Wicked man hurts his eyes.
Yeah, no, you get to switch to the other one. Well, if that's any indication of what we're talking about, it's going to be Lord of the Rings!
The original Peter Jackson trilogy.
Not the Hobbit, the cartoon Hobbit from like the 70s?
Not the cartoon Hobbit, not the cartoon Lord of the Rings. Okay. Not Rings of Power yet. We will get around to that once it's out.
Or the Hobbit 2012 version?
I really don't want to talk about the Hobbit.
We're not going to talk about it. I'm going to sprinkle it in because it's so important. It's so good. It's going to be like a cake. We got to make the perfect cake, man. So that's on the docket. But first, as always, there's just stuff. There's stuff I want to bring up that you have no idea, and I get enjoyment out of it.
Whenever you bring up news, I have no idea what you're talking about. I mean, sometimes I do. It's just I don't think of it as news.
Well, I'll leave the most important piece at the end here. So, D23 Disney's going to have some video games shown off for Disney-related games and Marvel-related games. David, what's your thoughts on that, huh? Are they going to have any cool games? Probably not, right? That's in like a couple weeks, I think. Like 2 or 3 weeks. 2 weeks, I think they're having D23. What Marvel game are you looking forward to?
Spider-Man 2? I haven't played Spider-Man.
That game came out already. Spider-Man 2 came out like 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
No, but the Insomniac Spider-Man 2.
That was Miles Morales, Spider-Man Miles Morales.
No, that was an expansion pack for
Spider-Man. It was a whole different story thing going on. It was a little bit of story.
Expansion pack. It's a different story. No, it's not a separate game. I'm guessing Spider-Man 2. I still haven't played Spider-Man 1 yet, but they just came out on Steam, so maybe this is December when that Steam sale rolls around. I'll have to scoop that bad boy up because I haven't played it yet.
It is a good one. It is a good one.
As far as actually, Kaylee told me about this a couple days ago, a week ago, something like that. That they're doing a Marvel video game showcase.
Oh man,
for lots of Marvel games, which I don't know are coming out. And given that Spider-Man from Insomniac has been the only good Marvel game come out in recent times, I don't have like super high expectations.
The Avengers game was really good. Didn't you play it? They added Black Panther and it changed the whole game. The whole meta's different now. That was a good patch.
When I heard they were trying to design a Marvel Avengers game in the vein of Destiny, I was piecing out on that because I was still kind of playing Destiny 2 at the time, and I was on the cusp of quitting, and I have quit.
You're free man. You're a free Destiny man. Your Destiny. You chose your own destiny. You didn't let Destiny decide your destiny.
I chose my destiny. I dropped Destiny 2. And I did not want to play a game like Destiny because as bad as I feel personally that Destiny 2 is, it is still the best Destiny-like game there is.
Yeah, it is.
And Avengers is a Destiny-like game, and I'm like, if I'm not feeling up to playing the best kind of Destiny-like game, I don't want to play a worse Destiny-type game. So I did not touch that game with a 10-foot pole.
Well, maybe someday you will, because D23 they're gonna release your favorite superhero into the game, She-Hulk.
I still won't play it.
The blank stare on your face is just it's just like you got stun locked. You just start convulsing.
I'll just do She-Hulk Rule 34, and that'll get my fill of She-Hulk.
That'll change everything.
That'll be fine. I don't
She-Hulk Rule 34. There's so many better Rule 34 searches than She-Hulk. There's so many more.
Well, yeah, she could use
It's
defense.
like towards the bottom. I never even would have thought of that before. That's not something I ever thought of ever.
Okay, Smeagol Rule 34.
I probably have Googled that one, to be fair, probably in the past.
Wow, Smeagol is above She-Hulk. What does that say about Brian?
Since Schmiegel's the greatest. He's top tier search result.
Treebeard Rule 34.
Oh man, we don't go that far. Trees are sacred. Okay,
Not the
moving on
She-Hulk.
from that lovely topic as I continue down my path of reckoning the news. Sony is buying or giving money to developers to not put their games on Game Pass. David, how do you feel about that? I'm assuming this kind of like stuff where games are like, oh, you can only play it on PlayStation or you can only play it on Xbox. I'm sure they've been paying developers for years and years, but now it's like kind of public knowledge that Sony is doing it.
Is that true, or is that just an
Yeah.
unsubstantiated rumor? Because that's what
No, I heard it was true.
I mean, I've seen news with it, but I'm like, I feel like I didn't know if it was like a rumor, or if it was actually fact.
Well, that stuff's probably. I mean, it's probably been going on since video games started, probably, right?
Well,
I would imagine.
I mean, to be fair,
Epic does it.
it serves Microsoft right, because Microsoft spent so much money buying exclusives for the original Xbox since the Xbox wasn't good enough on its own. Honestly, I wish Steam would give Saints Row developers and all developers that put good games on Epic first money to not put their games on Epic Store first, so they could have simultaneous release on PC platforms. They don't have to wait for Saints Row until next year. But
It sounds like you really like Epic. That's what I'm getting. Every time we talk about Epic, you're just like, dang, that's like a really good platform.
no, it's not a good platform. Worst platform ever. I will. I'll download Uplay from Ubisoft before I. I'll just
You're gonna get Uplay?
yeah, I'll start using Uplay. I will spend money on Uplay before I spend money on Epic, probably. And
What do you think's gonna happen first with Ubisoft? Do you think there's two things that are going to happen? Either Ubisoft is gonna get bought out by somebody as they try to abandon the sinking ship because they don't make games anymore, or it's just gonna go out of business because they don't know how to make games anymore. Which one do you think is gonna happen? One of those has got to happen. It's gonna be one of them.
I hope Sony buys them and starts, they get whoever runs Santa Monica Studios and get him and his whip and his God of War axe out and just start beating all the upper management of Ubisoft until they start making games as good as Santa Monica does. Because I really want, because Ubisoft has been given an open world Star Wars game to do, and I have very small hope that this will be any good. It'll probably be terrible because Ubisoft makes pretty bad games.
Well, now they do.
Yeah,
They used to make better games.
Back in the day they made good games. But recently, Ubisoft
Not so good.
has been rough.
They've been pretty bad, and they're probably going to continue probably being pretty bad. I know they're making an Avatar game, but that's probably been delayed or something. I don't know. We haven't seen anything about that.
An Avatar game and a Star Wars game. One of your favorite franchises, one of my favorite franchises, and we're just scared.
And we're both going to be disappointed.
We're just scared Ubisoft is just going to do the worst things possible to them. Like, I just hope they get bought up by by Sony soon enough, so Santa Monica Studio can teach them how a video game is supposed to be made. So that
Okay, yeah,
these two games will be
Santa
good.
Monica Studios is like extremely small compared to Ubisoft. Ubisoft has like 30,000 employees. Santa Monica probably has a couple hundred at most. There's a little bit of a difference
That's what I'm
there.
saying. Get the guy who runs Santa Monica Studio, send him over to Ubisoft for a couple months, and just have them beat them all, and show them what they're supposed to do, and then he can go back to Santa Monica Studio working on
Whatever he's working
the
on.
PS6 version of the next God of War, since the God of War.
Well, the next the guy that I like, Corey Balrog. He's been the creative director for a long time, but he's not working on this God of War. He's not the creative director for the God of War that's coming out. He's working on a different project that hasn't been announced yet.
Nice.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a space game. That's all we know about it.
Oh,
He's working on a space game.
Starfield 2.
Santa Monica's gonna make a space game. It's gonna be Starfield 2.
Yeah, can't wait.
Him and Tom Howard are gonna team up and create
Team
the
up.
ultimate game.
The
They're
ultimate
making
idiot.
Starfield is taking so long to come out. They're already working on the second one.
Yeah.
Another piece of Sony news is Sony has kind of started doing their Game Pass type of thing. They started a website. So, what are your thoughts on that? Because eventually they're not going. I would imagine they're going to take their games off of Steam, and now if you want to play Sony games, you're going to have to go to their Game Pass equivalent. What do you think about that? It's happening.
I'm more likely to do that than spend money on Epic.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't want to, but I trust Sony more than I trust Epic.
I guess that makes sense.
I mean, like they've technically had an online store presence for longer than Epic, because they've had a PlayStation Store with PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and a PlayStation 5.
All right, that's a convoluted way to explain it, but I guess.
So technically, they've got more know-how to make the store more interesting. And I mean, if the store brings Sony games to PC sooner than like a 3 to 5 year wait for the port, and as long as they're decently made if they're not rushed and like
all their ports so far has been great. All the ports for Sony games on Steam are fantastic. They're all done really well.
So far I've heard nothing but good things. So as long as they keep up that quality, if they make their own store and the quality suffers, then I'll be less likely to try it. I mean, I'll read reviews first, but I will be, as of right now, given the state of how they've made things, I am more likely to download a PlayStation Store on my PC to play PlayStation games than I would be playing Epic, because Epic will definitely come to Steam eventually. I just have to wait.
It's going to Steam. What are you talking about?
Well, Epic games that Epic gets exclusive, like Tiny Tina's Wonderland, like Saints Row, whatever
Fortnite.
else that Fortnite's made by Epic. It'll never come out. I don't
want Fortnite.
Once Fortnite starts losing money and not getting,
it's not gonna, man. That game's not going anywhere.
That's the only time I could see it coming over to Steam, and then they could just try to get more revenue that way by courting new players. Because I'm sure there's a bunch of people not playing Fortnite because it's not on Steam.
Well, they're not our age demographic, that's for sure.
No, definitely not.
Another piece of news is, I know you haven't played this game. Ghost of Tsushima is exclusive to Sony. Fantastic game, one of my favorites all time. They're making a movie for it, and they want all the characters and dialogue and everything to be in Japanese. So I can't watch it because it's not in English.
You have to turn the subtitles on.
If they have them. Maybe they won't have them. Maybe it'll only be Japanese. So that's just something quick I want to bring up. And the last piece of news.
This is Brian. Very sad.
That's me now?
Very sad.
Yeah, that's sad me because I can't watch the Ghost of Tsushima movie. The last piece of news before we jump into our bigger thing is that this week, Embracer Group ended up yoinking Lord of the Rings, or the whole shebang from Amazon. Amazon doesn't own it. I thought for sure Amazon was going to end up buying the Tolkien estate, but they didn't.
Oh, I can't. That's exciting to me, because then maybe we can get a satisfactory map that's based on Middle Earth, and I can go to Mordor and harvest all the uranium from my nuclear plant.
What? You want a satisfactory game based in Middle Earth?
No, I want since Embracer Group owns Coffee Stain.
Okay.
I want Coffee Stain to make a new map for Satisfactory based on the Middle Earth map. Yeah, I'll buy a DLC map of Middle Earth to play Satisfactory in. I can put my factories all over Middle Earth.
Something tells me that's not going to happen, but like I'm happy for you. If that thought gets you through the day, I'm happy for you.
You know, I could turn Rohan into like a coal mine.
It's just like a giant coal mine.
Just turn it into a coal power plant. Like keep the little rock in the middle where the village is. And like
there might be a lot of oil there. It's just kind of like a big field. It'd be really easy to get oil.
Oh, maybe that'll be the oil. It could be a power plant. Build a power plant
it could
around.
Be. Who knows?
About Edoras. Oh man, I'm.
There's just so many possibilities.
I can put a nuclear plant around. Mordor. Oh man, that'd be great. Like, but
do wish that back in the day I liked Battle for Middle Earth. It was a real-time strategy game similar to like whatever
Command
games
and
that
Conquer, StarCraft.
yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I want them to bring that back. Please. I love that game. I still have it in CD form, but I can't play it because I don't have a CD player.
Oh no! You can just put it into a machine that converts it to a disc to a thumb drive.
That doesn't exist. That technology doesn't exist.
There's gotta be a machine. It's like a small little thing. You put a CD in, you put the thumbstick in, it just transfers everything over to the thumbstick.
I mean, I'm sure you can download the game online and just play it, but like, I want a new one. That game came out in like 2005. Give me like a new one. That's what I want.
That would be pretty cool. QuakeCon is happening this weekend. Today's the last day as of the live broadcast of this right now. So I was looking forward to QuakeCon this year because it's been a while since Doom Eternal came out, and we don't know what id is working on. I was really hoping they would announce a Quake 2 reboot in the vein of Doom 2016 with the glory kills and the super fast action. I think that would be an amazing pivot. I mean, we've got 2 Doom games that were amazing. So let's go to Quake for a game or 2 using the same ideas, and then we can go back to Doom.
I love your enthusiasm. I really do, but it's not happening.
Why?
They're not making. It's not gonna make a Quake game, man. They're gonna make another Doom game and call it a day. They're gonna work on Doom 8. That's what they're gonna work on.
Well, technically it's Doom 3 because Doom Eternal, like Doom 2016 was basically a reboot. Doom Eternal was basically Doom 2 Hell on Earth because you're on Earth a lot of the game, well, some of the game, and Doom 3, and then
it'll be Doom Hell.
And then the original Doom 3 was basically a reboot also. So this would be the perfect time to pivot to Quake for a couple of games, then they can reboot Quake, and then they reboot Doom again.
Man, you got a Quake game. It came out a couple of years ago.
No, I don't care about Quake Arena. Quake is 3 different franchises. Quake 1 is this weird gothic medieval thing that they wanted to be Dungeons and Dragons, but then they didn't put any Dungeons and Dragons mechanics into it. And then and then Quake 2 was like this Space Marine game where you go fight these people because they destroyed Earth. Then Quake 3 was just an online game, so that's another universe. Then Quake 4 is the sequel to Quake 2. I want a new Quake game that goes back down that Quake 2 and 4 line, where you get a single-player story, and so those cool monsters. I love the Quake 2 monster design.
It's not going to happen, but it's not going to happen, man. It's not going to happen. So, I
can't wait.
I'm not going to say meat and potatoes like I just did. I'm just gonna say potatoes.
Potatoes. What potatoes, precious?
Moving on to the potatoes of what we're gonna talk about. Lord of the Rings. Last time we forgot to rate it until the very end.
Very end.
Lord of the Rings, the 3 movies, the great 3 fantasy movies that everything tries to reference to like be like, well, Lord of the Rings was good, so why can't this? For anything that's fantasy. David, what would you rate Lord of the Rings trilogy?
10.
10. 10. Is that the first 10? I think that's the first 10 you're gonna give.
Lord of the Rings is 10. It still holds up to this day. I've been rewatching it with my wife, and the only thing that she pointed at that was super janky that I think is still janky and was janky when it came out was the Saruman Gandalf fight. When Gandalf is spinning around by his head on the floor, it almost looks like it's a mannequin that just spinning around like by its head. It's really weird looking.
It probably is a mannequin. It's no way it's a real person.
Yeah, it was a really bizarre choice. It looked weird. It looked super unnatural, and I don't know why they went with that particular shot. I don't know why they didn't do something a little bit different there. That's the only kind of janky part, and that's just the visual effects thing. It's not anything to do with the story. And we're definitely talking about the extended editions here because it's the only way.
It's the only way to watch it.
Like the original editions, a 9. Extended editions, 10.
You need that extra like hour per movie.
Yeah.
You need to bump that screen time up.
It's all about flow. These longer films feel shorter to me because the pacing is better. They added in like some of the scenes they added in are just stupid little like shots of them in the rain or whatever, but it just breaks things up and it makes the movie flow. You get a better sense of passage of time in the extended editions than you do in the originals because it jumps around. Like the way.
So are you gonna try to make an argument right now that the extended edition for Lord of the Rings feels shorter than Venom?
Yes.
Oh man, Venom's only like an hour and 20 minutes.
But
Lord of the Rings are all over 4 hours.
I know, but from a pacing standpoint, they're better edited, better movies. I'm enjoying the experience of watching them, even again. Whereas Venom is like, oh my god, I can't wait for this to be. When you're dreading it and you can't wait for it to be over, those minutes take years to wade through.
Yes, they do. They do take a while.
But Lord of the Rings, it's like this is good, this is good, this is good, this is exciting. Like I don't notice the passage of time like at all. I'm like, oh, this is happening, this is happening. I can't wait for this scene to happen. This is going to be great. I love seeing this. Like Lord of the Rings is great. Every single time I watch it, I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's always really good. I mean, I've seen it. I've only seen the original cut of like the first three movies. First three, there's only three of the three movies, maybe twice. The rest of the 20 times I've watched it has definitely been the extended edition, and that is fantastic.
I gotta say, I'm the opposite, but only because when these movies came out, I saw them like 5 and 6 times in the movie theater. So I saw them many, many times when they were brand new, and then I bought the DVDs. I watched them a couple times, and the extended editions were newer, so I haven't watched them as many times just because they're
dove in there.
Newer. Yeah.
They're long.
And
they do take up a lot of time.
It's all. I mean, even though they feel like they're not as long, they do take up a substantial amount of time to watch.
Is it because they're all over 4 hours?
Because they are over 4 hours, even though they feel like it's only an hour and a half because they're so good. But
there's no way. There's nothing that is like. There's just no. That's not. I feel like that's just a bad argument. That's not a good argument at all. Like it's. They're very long movies, and you're like, it only feels like an hour and 20 minutes.
Well,
that's not going to hold up in court, man.
Because Venom felt like 6 hours, but it was only an hour and a half.
So therefore, a 6.5 hour movie will only be an hour and a half.
There you go. Yeah, I don't know. I'm all about flow and pacing, and these movies are basically perfectly paced. I absolutely love them. How about you, Brian?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. The extended edition are a 10 for me. And the not extended edition is 9. They might be my favorite movies of all time. I think don't quote me on that because like in the future I might change that up based on other movies I can think of. But they're definitely really.
Fight
really
Club's
good.
also one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, Fight Club is really good, but I don't think it's Lord of the Rings level for me. Lord of the Rings is just better for me.
Oh, I mean, Lord of the Rings is better, but Fight Club is like one of my like go-to movies. I used to watch Fight Club like annually.
you got to mark it on the calendar.
It's like,
all right, I guess it's time to watch a good old Fight Club.
It's Tyler Burton's Dirt Day. That means it's Fight Club Day.
it's Fight Club Day. David, a question I have for you is the characters of Lord of the Rings. Mm-hmm. Everybody probably has a favorite character. I know I do. David, who's your favorite Lord of the Rings character?
My favorite Hobbit is Pippin. Smeagol's probably my all-time favorite character. And
I thought you were gonna say that.
And then Gimli is up there for sure. Gimli's probably like number 2 overall.
Gimli's number 1. He's number 1, man. Gimli's the best.
Smeagol 1, Gimli 2, Pippin 3. Maybe Gandalf after that. I don't know.
Which one, the gray or white?
Oh, absolutely the white, because he's got way more power.
Okay, that's fair.
And then the ring.
Every time I see any of the actors,
the ring's a character.
Oh gosh. Anytime I see these actors that aren't in Lord of the Rings, it feels weird. Like every time I see Viggo Mortensen not as Aragorn, I think like it's like that's Aragorn. What's he doing in like how did he get to this universe? That's with all the characters. Those movies have permanently like every time I see any of them, like even Orlando Bloom when I was watching Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm like, what is Legolas doing in Pirates of the Caribbean?
What about Troy?
All of yeah. Oh man, that's Troy as well. There's it's just that's the ongoing problem that I have. They're forever going to be these Lord of the Rings characters for me.
And then, it's like whenever Sam shows up on screen first, since my wife and I have watched Stranger Things, I'm like, oh look, it's Bob. He gets his guts eaten by the Demigorgon.
There's Bob. He gets killed at the end of season 2.
It's Bob Wise Gamgee.
Bob Wise Ganji. Yeah, it was weird seeing him. There's always a little bit of weirdness for me because he is Sam. He's best friends to Frodo.
And then there's, Smeagol, who only had one arm in Wakanda, and they killed him in the movie. I'm like, how are you killing Smeagol? Like, that's not fair. Stop killing Smeagol.
He's not Smeagol. That's Andy Serkis. He wasn't being like a monkey or Smeagol in that one. He was just being Andy Serkis.
But Andy Serkis was in King Kong twice. He was King Kong and he was the cook, and he got eaten.
Yeah, that is true.
He got eaten by. He died twice in King Kong. He got eaten by the worms, and then he fell off the building.
He does a fantastic job in everything that he's in. I wish, man. I know we've talked every time we bring up Andy Serkis. It's like, man, that guy, he's cool.
Andy Serkis, talk about him. He was also in Heavenly Sword. He played like the bad guy king in Heavenly Sword.
Yep. He was. I mean, he played Caesar as well in the monkey movies that I can't think of the name of.
The Planet of the Apes films.
Planet of the Apes. Yeah, he's Caesar in that.
The new ones.
Yeah, the newest ones.
Yes,
those movies were pretty good. But Lord of the Rings is the greatest fantasy movies of all time. This has been talked about for 20 years now. They came out early 2000s. There's still nothing has been able to live up to these movies. Why I can like there's things that are on par with like the story wise, but Peter Jackson, whatever he did in Lord of the Rings, because he wasn't able to replicate it in The Hobbit, it was just kind of this one's just always better. I don't know why it's always like this is the golden standard for everything.
Well, the problem is like The Hobbit had a couple things going against it. The Hobbit, since the studio made so much money with Lord of the Rings, they're like, hey, make that one the 3 movies too. So I think they had the studio, because I think Peter Jackson should have put his foot down, like, this is 2 movies max. And when the studio was like, you can make 3 movies, I don't know if he just saw dollar signs because they made so much money on Lord of the Rings. I don't know what happened in the decision-making process, but making it 3 movies was a giant mistake. Shooting on the red cameras was also a giant mistake, or at least shooting at, like, was it 30 or 48? They were shooting at a weird frame rate. I think it was a 48 frames per second red camera, whereas typical film movies are shot at 24 frames a second. You're used to the way that feels. And
then the CGI looks really weird because the frame rate is higher.
It looked like a video game. Every special effect looked like a video game, whereas in the original movies it looked more real. And they're like,
yeah. Well,
so
to be fair,
older.
In the original one, there aren't a lot of VFX shot. There definitely are some, but there's more practical things than aren't practical.
Yeah, they built a lot of bigatures, what they call them in the Lord of the Rings, commentary. All the extra features on because they made their miniatures so massive. They called them bigatures because they would fill up a giant warehouse. It was just like one building, but it was still miniature because you couldn't actually go inside the building. It was just a giant, so they could do crazy shots around Isengard or Barad-dûr or whatever,
Yeah, and even the hair and makeup on the orcs. That still holds up like super good. The hair and makeup on any orcs or goblins or whatever, they're all like fantastic done, and I'm glad that Rings of Power, because we've seen a screen grab or whatever from the Rings of Power, and the orcs in that still look, or goblins, I don't know what they were in the Rings of Power when we saw that picture of them. They still look good. He set the gold standard for that too, for hair and makeup. At least that's my take. I can't think of any other movies that do it like that.
Well, and then
they look good.
And then every single prop design on the armor, the buildings, like Dwarvish stuff looks dwarvish, Elvish stuff looks elvish, human stuff looks human. Like everything is distinct from an artistic standpoint that these races have been around for forever. And they just did such a good job with everything. Like everything is so detailed. Like they're leaving Lothlorien and on the boats, and like the boats have like some fancy things on the
Yeah.
on the oars. The oars are like really like the oars look elvish. Like it's everything is so detailed in these films. It is absolutely a joy to look at, and it's the gold standard for fantasy. Like and
Attention to detail. So if there's a lot of, we're kind of like just talking about the movies as themselves rather than the story, because everybody's seen them, everybody knows the story.
Yeah, like this is the gold standard. Basically, we wanted to talk about Lord of the Rings because the new Rings of Power show is coming out, and this is the gold standard to hold it against. And it's really scary in 2022 for a new show to come out and be compared to probably one of the best things of all time, and they're trying to, and I don't think they can. Like in these last couple of years have kind of been the dark ages of creativity. We saw the Wheel of Time, probably one of the best modern epics fantasy series that directly took inspiration from Tolkien. Like the showrunner just flushed that story down the drain and wrote whatever he basically wanted on a very loose framework of the first book. Like
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is, look at how happy we are right now talking about Lord of the Rings. We're happy.
Look at
now when we go talk about Rings of Power, we're all gonna be like disheveled. There's gonna be like holes in our shirt. We're just gonna be like sleepy and tired. Oh, we watched it. We got through it.
Don't mix us through this.
Exactly. That's exactly how the whole thing's gonna be. I mean, hopefully not. Maybe it'll be really good.
I hope so. But
I be good. It can be good, man. It can be good.
I expect to be speaking.
Oh man, yeah. So, if you could go anywhere in Middle Earth, why would it be Rivendell behind me? Is there any other else where it's like? I feel like if you want to ever go to Middle Earth, everybody's gonna say Rivendell, right? Is there anywhere anybody else would want to go over Rivendell?
I don't know. I think Lothlorien is more true to how elves should live.
I mean, so you don't want to go to Rivendell?
I mean, I would go to Rivendell. I'd probably go to Lothlorien first.
Really?
Because I mean, like, Rivendell looks like an elven ski lodge, which I mean, it's nice, it's beautiful. It looks like a home. It's very homey. But like when I think high elves, and this might be because of wood elves, because of my experience
because of the Hobbit
playing EverQuest. It's like, you know, they would like make their home around the nature, whereas like in Rivendell, you know, they had to clear a lot of trees to put up those lodges, whereas like, you know, in Lothlorien, everything's built around the trees and between the trees, which is kind of how the wood elves lived in EverQuest and EverQuest 2. So I like that, like, you know, working with nature instead of against it. Well, of course, they had to cut down trees to build some of the buildings they built, but they kept the bigger trees and worked around them. I don't know. I thought,
I guess that's a fair point.
I mean, it feels more true to elfdom, but whereas like the Rivendell elves are like more like the modernistic elves. Like, yeah, we don't need the trees as much. We'll plant new ones where we cut some of the big ones down where we have a space between a building, but they definitely cleared out a lot of trees.
Oh yeah, no, they did
to make
it
Rivendell.
Still looks cool though.
Well, maybe they uprooted them and made them Ents, and they sent them on their way. It's like,
maybe
we want to keep you alive. We'll make you alive. You can walk away, and we can build the street. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe they did do it naturalistically, but I
don't think that's in the lore. I'm not sure that we're gonna get a lore answer for that.
Legolas said the elves started. I think when they talk about the trees talking,
yeah,
Legolas said the elves started it. So maybe they.
Yeah, no, that is true, but I don't think they like went to a forest and were like, all right, trees, get on up. We're gonna build here now.
You can go. They taught them how to talk, and then they had all the trees walk away. Yeah, probably not. So I just think Lothlorien is the more like lore friendly, nature friendly elf paradise, and it's beautiful. Like all the grass is like carpet. You know, Galadriel's walking around barefoot, pouring water into a silver bowl so you could look and see the future. I mean,
The absolute highlight, the pinnacle of poor watering.
the pinnacle.
Or watering, pouring water.
Her feet look really clean for walking around on bare grass. So I mean, like,
It's very clean ground.
very clean grass.
Very clean ground.
Very clean grass. I don't know.
I think if I wanted to
That's a
live
cool
anywhere
place.
though, it would have to be the Shire. I would want to live in the. They're kind of just stress free, hanging out, just doing
and they
Hobbit
got
stuff.
And they got the best pipe tobacco. I mean, they got to be able to roll that into cigars, right? So I mean, that would be pretty good.
Probably. I mean, I think that's where I'd want to live because it's the least stressful. Like if you don't want to live with dwarves because they're always building stuff, and I don't want to be building all the time or mining. I don't want to do that all the time.
Or they dig
As much as I like being a dwarf.
or they dig too deep and they have the Balrog come like kill like
Yeah,
summon
there's a lot
orcs
of
and
trouble
kill
there.
them.
Dwarves, dwarves get themselves in trouble, and we don't need none of that.
I would have liked to visit Moria back when Gimli
Oh, yeah,
remembered
for sure.
back when Gimli remembered the good old days. I don't want to visit Moria with all the
Not
evil
now.
stuff.
Well, not when. Maybe in era 2 we will see Moria.
Maybe. Yeah, happy Moria.
Happy Moria.
But I mean,
where all the dwarves be.
But I mean, it was okay because I mean, I think one of the hobbits, I mean, one of the dwarves from, the Hobbit was the one sitting on the one Pippin knocked into the well. I think that was supposed to be one of the hobbits from the Hobbit.
Really?
I believe so. From a
I
lore
don't know that
standpoint,
for sure.
I think that is the case. I might be wrong, but I mean, it's relatively recent, within the past 80 years, where that place was livable.
80 years?
Well,
Livable?
yeah, because I mean,
It was older than that.
Bilbo. Oh, it's older. It was not orc infested at least 80 years ago.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying like it was built 80 years ago.
No. It was not orc infested at least 50 to 80 years ago. Because Bilbo had the ring, what, 50 years?
About 50 years.
Before
Yeah, probably somewhere around there.
Before he leaves.
Now, for all the Lord of the Rings experts, we don't know everything. I'm sure there's somebody out there that knows the exact amount of time he had it, but 50 years I feel like is okay.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, like they're a little bit looser with the dates in the movies because I know in the books, like I think Gandalf has gone for like 20 or between 20 and 40 years between when he leaves from Bilbo's party and comes back for the ring. Like it is a long gap.
He's gone for a while.
In the movie, they make it look like it's a week.
Well, they can't make him be gone forever in the movie. He would never show up again in the movie.
We just have real time of Frodo for 3 movies, just like doing Shire things.
Just hanging out. Hey, then we would really be able to solidify living in the Shire because it'd just be cool, just hanging out. They don't have like jobs. They just are like, let's get some food. What about second breakfast? That's what I wish.
Well, someone's gonna make second breakfast.
Yeah, but like all they do is like make food and just hang out. Nobody's going to an office building and like working. They're all just in it together.
Well, yeah,
Nice.
It's an agrarian medieval culture. It's like what anyone would be doing back then. You basically, all your work is to survive. You work and, you know.
Well, yeah, but
making
dwarves
food.
are always like fighting something. Like they get a dragon to come fight them, or elves that seem kind of a little bit too snooty for me. I don't want to like be an elf. They're kind of snooty. Men suck.
Oh,
Humans are awful. Always in any fantasy thing, you can bet your bottom dollar that the humans are going to be the bad people. And it's always for the same reason. They're greedy.
Pretty much.
It does work out that way because that is how humans are. But definitely habits are the way to go.
Oh, for long-term living, the Shire would be pretty primo, I think. Except for everything's going to be too small for us. We'd be 2 giants living in the in the Shire.
No, we aren't giants. We're humans. There are giants in Middle Earth.
That's true. But
We're not them. We can just build our own house next to them. We'll be like, hey, we'll be your new neighbors. If you need help with like getting anything off like the high cupboard, like, if you need help cleaning the top of the fridge, we got you. Even though they don't have fridges, we could invent electricity for them. Imagine what that would do for them.
The hobbits with power. Then they'd.
Do you have a favorite story beat of all the movies? Is there a favorite moment that comes to mind when thinking Lord of the Rings? An all-time favorite moment?
I I'm sure there's going to be others, but I think one of my favorite story beats is when Pippin tricks Treebeard into walking by Isengard
That is a good one.
after they've decided not to go to war, and Treebeard's like, "What the did they do? Like, did they do to all these trees?" And he just roars, and all the trees come to answers. Like, and they all check it out. It's like, oh my god, okay, we're going to war now. They've messed with our trees. We're gonna go mess with them back. Like that I mean, the whole the end to war was great. I mean, granted, that's like we don't really see the incident much after that, but man, that's such a good moment where Pippin just totally tricks him.
Yeah.
How about you?
There's a lot of good moments.
There's a lot of good moments. That was like one of mine.
The first thing that came to my mind was the Battle of Helmsdeep, when there's that guy that doesn't know how to shoot a bow and arrow, and he shoots the arrow off prematurely and like hits one of the
Orcs in the neck. Yeah.
orcs perfectly in the neck. That was that was the first thing that came out of my mind. But like, yeah, I didn't even think of the Treebeard one. Treebeard one's really good too. The Battle of Helm's Deep is probably my favorite of the entire movie.
Oh, it's it's such an epic fight. Although the extended edition does make the battle at Minas Tirith even cooler.
Yeah, that's any big battles is good.
Although if I have to pick a second favorite moment, it's probably the moment Aragorn becomes a one-shot necro. Where he's got his sword reforged, and he goes to all the dead people's like, "You're gonna fight for me," and then like he basically has like he's a one cast army of the dead. He gets to be a necro for a little bit.
I forgot there's a little bit of necro going on. I guess that's where you would go. I mean, that is also a good moment.
It's a great moment. It's really cool. It's like three people jump off the boat, and there's a giant army of orcs. And they start charging at the orcs. The orcs are like, what are they doing? Okay, we'll kill these three guys. And then the army of the dead just shows up.
It was pretty boss move when he just like walks in there and he's like, I'm the king. It's like the ghost people are like, no, you're not. And then he just like defends and they're like, oh, damn. Okay, he is. All right.
All right. Okay. We'll do it.
All right. We'll do what you say. That was a good moment. That was a good moment too. Man, there's so many good moments in Lord of the Rings. There's so many of them. I mean, even when Aragorn becomes king and he's talking to the hobbits, like, no, you are equal. You are equal to me.
You don't have to bow.
You don't have to bow. Yeah, like that. Like, oh man, these movies are so good, man. The Gondor king kind of sucks. He does a good job being crappy with the way he eats, just food.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Pippin's song is like one of my...
Pippin's song.
The Pippin song during that scene is one of my all-time favorite parts of the entire trilogy. Like, I love... He's got an amazing voice in that little part. Like, I love that part so much. It's like a top-tier moment in the series. Also, It Comes in Pints is a great moment, too.
Yeah.
With
potato, spoil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
Smeagol singing at the so in the second movie when Smeagol's at the thing, he's singing and bashing the fish's brains in so he could eat the fish dead. I created my email account smeagolsings@hotmail.com after seeing
that's
that
where
movie.
It came from. The lore.
It came
finally,
from
after years and years of not, I finally have discovered the lore of where that came from.
The lore. I created that email address while that movie was still in theaters. That's how old that email address is. Smeagolsings@hotmail.com. That comes to me.
Smeagol sings. Man, the lore has been revealed. The blanket has been pulled. I know all the secrets. Yeah, that's a good moment as well. There's a lot of it's just solid, man.
Like it's just the way Tolkien built poetry into the things they say, like just little things they say, like the little rhymes that Smeagol says, like at different times, and like Theoden when he's getting the armor put on him, and he's saying that Rohan poem. You know, like when he's getting, his armor put on. That's a great. There's so many little great moments. Like they don't like. It's just that there's so much lore just built into every little thing. Like we're watching a world and they're doing things, but they're referencing old stuff. Old written stuff from way back when. It just feels so alive. That's probably why the song in the Wheel of Time, when they're riding on the horse, they're singing about old Manetherin, and they've got Moraine explaining to them what that is. That's like the one time I felt super connected to the show, because it had that Lord of the Rings feel. That was as close as they got to really feeling like Lord of the Rings and doing justice to fantasy in that show, where they had characters referencing old stuff, old lore in the show. Like, and that was
I never thought of that making it feel more alive. I'm trying to think of shows or movies that do similar way that Lord of the Rings does to make it feel that way. The only thing I can think of is the early Game of Thrones. They kind of reference like older stuff that went on. A lot of stuff that they did was based on the older stuff. But like,
well, yeah, but I mean,
the Marvel movies, they feel empty.
Yeah.
The
But they're
I
also
can't think of
built
anything
on like
that
modern
feels that way.
time. I mean, Spider-Man references like The Empire Strikes Back as a really old movie. I mean, they only make modern callbacks to like their own franchises.
Yeah, it doesn't feel as alive though. You know, I like you got. I feel like I don't know how to explain it, but like you know what I mean when I'm saying like Middle Earth feels more alive than like MCU does.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that one moment in the Wheel of Time is the best moment of the entire show. They're riding on horses and just singing a song. That's like the best moment in the entire show for me.
Yeah, that was like episode 2 or 3, wasn't it?
It was
Something
really
like
it
that.
was really early, and the show went like right
I remember.
after.
I remember you were like that song, dude. That was it. That was the greatest moment.
It is, because it's like Lord of the Rings. It's like Lord of the Rings. It's like when Theoden sings that says that poem. When the hobbits sing their songs on the table, dancing. Like, it's super catchy. He wrote some really good limericks, some really cool poems, and the things that people say. Like, Smeagol's got a bunch of really good poems when he's like staring like at the water. Sometimes when he's not talking to himself, he's just kind of like musing. It's just nice little touches like that just make the world feel alive. It makes it feel like it's more than just the characters doing things, that they've got memories. They remember things that made them happy.
They do have that.
They remember better times. They remember things. I don't know. It's something about those little touches that you don't see often, but they just really make the world feel alive.
Well, because it didn't feel like the movie was about money. Everything's just about money. Now it's like, how do we make this the cheapest way possible with maximizing the most amount of profit?
And how do we pander to people and not like offend
Yeah,
anybody?
how do we like not offend like the woke like movement, or I don't know, whatever it's called, whatever
that word's lost. That word's lost its meaning. It's so overused nowadays.
Yeah, but those kind of people that get hurt about everything, and to some degree they are right, but like that wasn't a problem back in like 2000. That's a new problem where you got to navigate that plane too.
Well, that's the thing. Like, this movie was made at the perfect time, because like I feel like the last 10-15 years of film, cinema, and TV have been kind of like the dark ages of modern entertainment, where like everything's so cookie cutter, and we've got to make it to be as inclusive as possible, which makes it like bland. Like, everything's trying to be so. I'm not saying don't be inclusive, but the way they're going about it is just that you're losing the substance. Like Star Trek lately has been pretty blah. Except for Lower Decks. Lower Decks has been fantastic. The Wheel of Time
Starting up soon.
The Wheel of Time, yeah, it started up soon. Oh yeah, later this month, I think.
I think this upcoming week.
Ooh, yeah, that'll be great. I can't wait to get back into that. That's such a fun show. I don't know. It just like things. It just feels like lately for the most part. I mean, some things have been pretty good, but like, it was like what 5-6 years ago when the last couple seasons of Game of Thrones came out, and they just went downhill.
Yeah.
Star Trek,
they
Star
didn't
Trek's
have to
gone
go downhill. They chose to make the show go downhill. The showrunners were like, "We're done with this now.
We're gonna go
But
do
everybody's
Star
talked
Wars."
about that.
Like, the Star Wars movies have been pretty bad lately. When they're just trying to.
What do you mean lately?
Well,
They lately have been bad?
Well, since Disney's gotten a hold of it, like since Disney started making Star Wars movies, they've been bad.
Oh, so now the prequels aren't as bad as what they used to be.
The prequels are now like Shakespeare compared to these these movies.
The prequels aren't too bad anymore.
Yeah, the prequels are high art compared to the stuff that Disney's put out, which
Some
is
Picasso stuff.
yeah.
Now we're getting not that. I mean,
That's what I'm saying. Like Lord of the Rings came out the perfect time where like there was less like weird like social politics in Hollywood, where like they weren't trying to appease every single demographic.
well, there was social politics. It's just now it's like
different.
a movie will get destroyed on Twitter and Facebook. Even though I would like to see stats on like people that complain about movies that come out now. So for saying like, oh, this wasn't included, or this needs to be included, or there's more to this, or there's not enough female or male characters, or whatever the problem is. I wonder if it's just like loud noise on the internet and it doesn't really affect the profit. It just affects the way people talk about the movie. I'd be curious to know that.
I mean, it's like vocal minorities who like tend
Ruin
to
stuff.
try to ruin things, but also
Because I feel like a lot of those conversations, at least what I've seen, I don't see a lot of it either, but what people complain about, it's like the way they complain about things is like they're not the type of person to even go see that movie or watch that TV show. They just saw a trailer or saw a news headline and started complaining about it. I'm not it's like, I don't know, man. So it doesn't feel like the people that complain are actually the ones seeing stuff.
But the thing is, in general, things have been that way in the last 10, 15 years, though.
Yeah, they have.
You know what I mean? Like, things have been generally more bland. They're trying to appease everyone, and at the same time, they're kind of appeasing no one, because by trying to appease everyone, you're not appeasing the core fans of the franchise.
Yeah, and there's some odd ducks in there. Like Dune. Dune was really good.
Dune was great.
For this year, Everything Everywhere All at Once was a fantastic movie. That didn't really do much pandering.
In general, The Boys has been pretty good, and they've been like doing super everything tongue in cheek for like, where they'll like the pandering is a joke, but they're doing it anyway, and it's clearly a joke. It's like they kind of don't care about social norms. Just this most recent.
Well,
season,
they make fun of the social norms.
Yeah, whereas like that's kind of interesting, except for this season didn't feel like it went anywhere. So
it didn't. It didn't go anywhere. Invincible's another good one. They don't really. They're not. Good. Yeah, we keep talking about Invincible, but we don't actually talk about Invincible.
Well, maybe if there's nothing else next time, we'll do that one.
We can do Invincible.
Yeah, so
it feels like we keep bringing it up, but it's because it's so good, but then we never follow through.
Yeah, it just depends on what's coming out in the next couple of weeks. Maybe Invincible could be on the docket.
Maybe. But Lord of the Rings, obviously, it's good. We all like it. Everybody likes it.
They were super faithful to the source material.
Rings of Power be good.
Yes,
be good, Rings of Power.
We're
only talking about Lord of the Rings because we're cautiously optimistic, cautiously scared, terrified, worried, happy that there's more Lord of the Rings stuff, but scared that it's gonna suck really bad. Or it's gonna be Wheel of Time. Amazon doesn't have the greatest track record when it comes to fantasy shows, at least, because Wheel of Time is
fantasy. It's rough.
It's hard to make a fantasy show. It is hard to make it. Fantasy people are they like their story, man. If that story goes off like one beat, they're like, this sucks.
Yeah, it's true, but it's just such a weird thing that like like they've got so much, they've got everything they could possibly need for Wheel of Time, and yet they diverted from it at every possible like turn.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand like what happened there, because I've seen stuff on Wheel of Time now since it's come out, and people are like, yeah, I don't know anybody who's like, why did they not follow the book at all? They just like took characters and like changed the story. Pretty much.
Like it super loosely follows the beats of the show. I mean, like that's kind of how Game of Thrones ended up being. At Game of Thrones, the books and the shows, even when they were covering the same events, they did work out very differently. Especially around seasons 3 and 4, I think, and then that's when they ran out of material after that, and then it started getting way off track. But seasons 1 and 2 were close enough to the source material, and then like seasons like 4 and 5, they were still good. The same story beats kind of happened, but how they got there was completely different in some ways.
Yeah,
and for you to do that to save time later down the road is fine, but they started Wheel of Time that way. The Wheel of Time season 1 and season 2 should have been way closer to the books, and then to save time, you start fudging how the events happen. But
Well, with how much Wheel of Time stuff there is, or how many books there is, they could have just done something like Supernatural, just like make it go for like 20 years.
they could,
But again, that you don't know. That's a profit thing. You don't
Yeah,
know if it's
you
going to
don't-
last that long, so
don't know
you
if it's
can't. How
gonna
much
do
of the
well.
story do you do? It's a tough water. It's hard.
it's
It's
tough.
hard to navigate.
It's tough. But yeah, Lord of the Rings, we just really wanted to have like a palate cleanser, have something we're both super pumped about. We love these films. Our first tens on the podcast.
Yeah.
Since Brian and I have been doing
Probably will never get another 10. There might be some 10s out there. There's some 10s out there that we haven't talked about, I'm sure. I can't think of any, and maybe there'll be some 10s in the future. Who
Fight
knows?
Club. Fight Club's 10.
Yeah, well, Fight Club's not new.
That's true.
We need new stuff that are 10s. There's no new stuff that are 10s.
Yeah, Fight Club also came out during this era. It was out when I was in college. Or when
Yeah, it was.
when these movies
I think
came
it
out.
what was it, like 2000, something like
It
that.
was in the 2000s, yeah, or 99. Like it was around the time the Lord of the Rings films came out.
Yeah.
Roughly within a couple of years. So in that era where things were like pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not that
yeah.
things aren't bad now, that aren't good now. It's just there's a lot more to wade through.
Well, there's so much more content than there was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, we didn't have YouTube, and we weren't bombarded with a billion videos telling us why something sucks or why something's good. Top 10 reasons why Lord of the Rings is good. And it's by like Watch Mojo.
Well,
Our top,
Mojo.
hey, our top 10 favorite moments of Lord of the Rings is
Whoa.
this.
But yeah, from people who haven't actually watched Lord of the Rings, which is really weird.
10 top reasons why you should watch Lord of the Rings.
Well, it's like the watcher. They have like a top 10 like hardest guitar parts or like best guitar song. I'm like, do you guys even play guitar?
Yeah, I know, right? That's like the I remember when Guitar Hero 3 came out and they talked about no, not talked about it. What was that? What's that really hard song? Dragon Force? Dragon Force song?
Through Fire and Flames.
Yeah, Through Fire and Flames and Guitar Hero 3. That was like the hardest song in the game. And then you see how it's played in real life and you're like, oh, that's kind of that's I mean, sure it's hard, but it's like doesn't feel as hard, doesn't feel equal.
Oh, I'm sure it's way harder to play in real life.
Well, but the way you would like you move your hand on the strings, it's not as much as what it was for. I thought it was like you're like doing this with the string. You're not doing that. It's more with the picking, like do 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 do.
Yeah,
I don't know how to explain guitar.
It's weird. Like when you see people play guitar, it doesn't look as hard, but then when you try and do it, it's like, oh my, holy crap, that's like way harder than it looks. And I play guitar,
yeah.
and I'm like, oh, that doesn't look hard to play. Then I try and do it, I'm like,
Wow, that's hard to play.
yeah, that's way harder than it seems.
That's way hard to play. Yeah, Lord of the Rings. Why haven't you watched it? If you're listening.
Yeah, why haven't you watched it? You should send that email to where
Send the
Brian?
email out on why you haven't watched Lord of the Rings. We don't want to know why you watched it. We know why you watched it. We want to know why you haven't watched it.
Yeah, if you haven't watched it, why haven't you?
Yeah. Email David at smeagolsinks@hotmail.com.
No, not my personal email address. Although I did mention it, I just had to because like the lore of my email address came from this guy.
That guy right there. He's happy and mad.
Smeagol. He's happy and mad. Oh, he's angry and sad. Not very.
Oh,
happy.
angry and sad.
Yeah,
I misspoke. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's pretty mad right there.
Oh yeah, he is kind of angry in that one. That screenshot. So yeah, 10 out of 10. Email David. Yeah, sign him up for like all the different types of like
No.
spam.
I don't check that email address already because of all the spam I get. That's an old email address.
Give him all the like free trials, all those anything where you can put your email address into. Give it, put it in there.
No, please don't. Please do not. Just use it for
Oh man,
correspondence if you want to tell us why you've never seen Lord of the Rings and why you hate it or whatever.
that would be interesting.
Maybe we'll read it on the air.
If any person is listening, email David if you haven't watched Lord of the Rings. I don't want to hear it. Don't lie. We'll be able to read your email and we'll know if you watch it or not. There's no, because you got to have a real good excuse. It's not leaking just, oh, I just don't feel like it. It's too long. No, that's not a good excuse. You've seen it. You're lying. Tell us the reasons. You aren't born yet. That's a good one. We know you haven't seen it yet then.
Yeah, that's the thing.
They've been purged. They've been burned. Nobody can watch them anymore. That's a bad reason. We know they're still out there. I have them. I'll let you borrow it. Any final thoughts, David?
I hope they don't mess up Rings of Power. that's like my most present thought. I just hope they don't mess this up because these movies are as about close to perfection as movies get. The effects still hold up for the most part. Like some of the CG, some of the stuff you can tell is definitely blue screen, but
well, as we get farther ahead, it's gonna get worse and worse. That's just.
But it still holds up really, really well.
Oh yeah, it still holds up, but will it hold up in 75 years?
Will it hold up in court?
No. It didn't. They lost. Embracer Group brought it.
Woo! Can't wait for my satisfactory Lord of the Rings map. Come on, Coffee Stain.
You have to wait a couple more years.
You know you want it. Yeah.
You know you want to make a Lord of the Rings map, a Middle Earth map. Alrighty. Well.
Until next time, may the one ring in the darkness bind
There's multiple rings. There's multiple rings. We're not doing one ring. Everybody gets one ring.
One ring.
Everybody gets one ring. Email David at synthaholics@yahoo.com.
All right. Till next time, guys. See ya.